Hello, welcome back to Algebra 1. Here we're going to learn about simplifying algebraic fractions. So basically we'll be looking at lots of fractions and simplifying them, just like we did when we learned about fractions to begin with, but now they'll have variables involved. So for instance, let's just take kind of a simpler one here. What if you have 2x plus 2y, and all of that is divided by 4. Now a lot of times this kind of thing scares students because it looks scary. You have x's and y's on the top, and this fraction bar is enormous. It's covering the whole thing, and you're dividing by the number 4. And we're asked to simplify it. What you're trying to do is use all of the rules that you've learned to make this fraction as simple as possible. All right, now we look at the numerator first. This numerator is this entire thing, and we see that we have a 2 here and a 2 here. So the first thing we can try to do on the top is factor out that 2. So the way that you would write that is you would pull the 2 out, open up a parentheses, and then it would be x plus y. Make sure you understand that, because basically when you take this 2 out here, you'll just have the x, and when you take the 2 out here, you'll just have the y. And of course, you can multiply it in, and you'll get exactly what you started with. Now on the bottom here, you still have the 4. Now this doesn't really look any simpler. In fact, it looks more complicated because now you have these parentheses here. But then you notice that you have a 2 in the top and a 4 in the bottom. And this 2 is multiplied by this, and this 4 is multiplied by this. Now remember back to your basic fractions, right? What if you just had the fraction 2/4? How would you simplify it? Well, you try to figure out what you can divide the top and the bottom by, so that you can divide top and bottom evenly by the same number. In this case, I can divide the top by 2 and the bottom by 2. Right? Another way of looking at that is I can say, well, this 2 here is I can strike out this 2, and I can cancel through this guy and make him a 2, because on the top what's happening is 2 divided by 2 gives me 1, so it's kind of invisible here, and 4 divided by 2 gives me the 2. So I can cancel this 2 out. It basically gives me a 1. I cancel, again, dividing by 2 here, so I strike this out and I'm left with a 2. So essentially all I'm doing is dividing the top and the bottom of the fraction by the number 2. So on the top, because this gave me a 1 right here, this division by 2 gave me a 1, all I have left is x plus y. And you can leave the parentheses if you want to, but since there's nothing else, you don't really have to carry them around. And on the bottom you'll have a 2. Now notice that this fraction is what we call fully simplified, because there's nothing I can really do on the top. I can't add these together. I can't factor them or simplify them. And I only have the single number on the bottom. So even though this fraction still looks kind of ugly, that really is the simplest form. All right, so we're just going to crank through here. We're going to do tons and tons of examples because simplifying these algebraic fractions is really, really important. Let's say we have 5a minus 10, that's the numerator of the fraction, and the bottom is a minus 2. Again, it looks really ugly. So the first thing you do when you attack it is you say, well, what can I do to the top? Can I factor anything out, for instance? Well, I see that I have the 5 and the 10, so I know I can factor out a 5, so let me just see if that helps. I don't know if it's going to help, but let me just try. On the inside, when I factor that 5 out, I will have a minus 2. Make sure you understand that, because when I factor it out from here, I'm left with the a. When I factor it out from here, I have 2, because 5 times 2 gives me 10. On the bottom, I have a minus 2. So then I look and see, well, how can I simplify this? Now, at first you may not know what to do, but then you need to remember that on the bottom I have a minus 2, but you can always put parentheses around any term you want. If it helps you visualize it, you can kind of put some parentheses around the bottom there. You don't have to, but you can if you want to. And then you notice that in the top I have an a minus 2, and in the bottom I also have an a minus 2. So the rule of thumb that you're looking for is when you see the same term in the top and the bottom of a fraction, you can cancel